All right, hello everyone. Let me just adjust that a little bit there because when I clicked the button, it kind of went down. Anyway, since part one of this, honestly, there hasn't been that much. So I'll just get into it real quickly, and then I'll talk about kind of like my first load, the load I'm on now, the load board, things like that. Just like a general overview, I guess, of what I've experienced so far. Anyway, so I got to Memphis on Sunday around 1 p.m. I looked at the truck, went over everything, made sure everything on it was good to go. The only thing is, when I was at Memphis, the truck was perfect. There was nothing wrong with it at all. However, once I started driving it, there was with at least the driver's side, because that's the one I've been hearing squeal. The driver's side brake has been squealing. So when I stopped here at the Loves here in Indianapolis, I looked at it and it's starting to get grooves, which it didn't have before. I'm not sure how it got grooves that quickly. Usually it takes a little bit for grooves, but I'm just assuming weight of a load perhaps. Anyway, so I might have to get that checked. I have a load going to Florida. I'll only be about an hour away from the Ocala terminal, so I'll probably get it checked there, depending on the wait time. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so everything else has been fine with it, but the process anyway, I just, checked the truck, went over the truck, made sure everything was good with the truck. Everything was good. The next day, on Monday, I called my owner-op recruiter. My owner-op recruiter was Ramona. She pretty much went over everything that I have to do and what to expect, and if I like the truck. I said yes, everything looks good. I went over it. I'll go over it a second time. Once I get the truck, I went over it the second time. Everything was still good. So she started the process. From the process, she essentially told me to, because I had outside insurance that I was going to do, she essentially told me to get them to send the like proof of insurance, the COI, I believe it's called, or something like that. Anyway, they wouldn't send that unless they had the pages. Well, because they didn't have the pages of the contract, like page 4, 7, and 10 or something like that. It's actually written down somewhere here. Let's see. It was 7, 8, and 10. They wouldn't start the coverage, so I had to call Ramona back and tell Ramona, hey, they won't start the coverage unless they have pages 7, 8, and 10 of the contract. So are you able to send that to them, or send it to me and then I could send it to them? Or could I just get the contract and sign it and then get the insurance covered after? And essentially what she did was she just sent me the contract after she did all of her initialing and everything she needed to do, and noting down that I'll remove the camera system and get my own, and so on and so forth. She then sent it to me, obviously. I signed it, read through it first before signing it, initialed everything I needed to initial, did everything I needed to do for the contract. And then from then, I sent the whole contract over to Seabright, my insurance, and they essentially just extracted pages 7, 8, and 10, which just kind of goes over the cost of the truck, the balloon payment. So mine is like $100,200 or $300 with a $37,000 balloon payment, $2,700 down, which they could also finance through $100 a week for 27 weeks, which equals to about, quick math, 6 months and 2 or 3 weeks, 6 months and 3 weeks. So yeah, I mean, that was the process for getting the contract signed and getting my insurance, pretty much. I just told them what I wanted to opt into, what type of insurance I wanted. Well, not the type of insurance I wanted, but the type of opt-ins I wanted. Comes with physical damage with GAP, bobtail insurance, so on and so forth. The physical or like damage and bobtail insurance is required for you to remove the cameras. If you don't get both, then and just one or the other, then you have to keep the camera. However, if you get both, then obviously you could get rid of the camera. I was gonna get rid of the camera there in Memphis, but they said, oh, we can't get to you till tomorrow morning. I'm like, well, tomorrow morning I want to get out of here. Like, it was like 1 p.m. at that point when I told them. So I'm like, I'll just have my home terminal do it when I go on home time. And hopefully it's done in a timely manner. So then after the process, obviously I got everything swapped into my truck. I made sure everything was out of my old truck, and I then got access to the owner operator portal. I then had to log out of my old Point app and log into my new one, which is just a different username because I had a different driver code. My driver code went from all numbers to all letters and one number. Then going on to the load board, because that process is already done. I'm just going to be a quick like overview of what I've noticed with the load board so far. And so with the load board, then I booked a load for my first load out of Memphis, picking up in the Memphis, Tennessee yard there, the terminal. I mean, the load board, it works well. It does what it needs to do. You could book your own loads. You could look at loads. You could put destination, and you could put your deadhead miles that you prefer. But it doesn't really give you much more than that. Like, you can't create like notifiers. So like if you say, oh, I want to see loads from Indianapolis, Indiana within a 75-mile radius, you can't put that as like a notification if a new load pops up, and it only shows you loads for that day. It doesn't show you loads for the following day. The only time it will show a load for the following day is if it's a appointment window, and that appointment window goes into the next day. So it's a little annoying because like some areas you might be going into blinded, not knowing like, oh, is this going to be a good area for Swift? Because I know there's certain areas that are not good for other companies, but then it's been good for Swift, like Denver, for example. There's companies that go into Denver and then you're sitting for 3-4 days coming out of Denver, whereas with Swift you go to Denver and you just haul a beer load coming out, or like some insulation load coming out. For example, the load board has loads all over in Denver of malt, of other types of alcohol, of insulation. So I mean, it's a little annoying you can't see multiple days, or like put it to a day that you're going to be there. So like, let's say you have a load that takes 3 days and you got the load on the 20th, you know you're delivering on the 23rd, you know you'll have time on your clock to pick up another load. You can't look at loads on the 23rd of where you're going to and book it and then be good to go and have something coming out, because they don't let you see that far. But I did book my first load as owner op on the load board as literally my first load, from Memphis, Tennessee, the terminal, to Indianapolis, Indiana. It was 444 miles, and not including fuel surcharge, it was $563.88. I'm not sure what the fuel surcharge will end up being. I think around 30 to 40 cents per mile. So you could add another 30 to 40 cents per mile to that, I believe. At least that's what they said, and on their app it showed 41 cents per mile, but that ended on the 19th, so I'm assuming it's probably gone down a little bit, because it looks like it's been going on a trend downward a little. But it also depends on where you're going through, because, like, for example, here in Indianapolis at this Love's, it's over $4 a gallon, where I filled up in West Memphis, Arkansas, it was $3.49 per gallon. So I filled up 65 gallons because I only needed 68 to complete the load, and I calculate based on 6.5 mile per gallon. It was a lighter load, so I figured 65 gallons would be more than enough. It required more like 68 gallons if you calculate at 6.5 miles per gallon. Ended up being only a couple gallons more than I needed. So with that, it was like 240 some odd dollars, 245 I think, maybe 246, including a little bit of def because I was running low on it. So I believe the load, and then after like my MRP deductions and escrow and things like that, my Zonar rent, everything else, I got roughly $170 from that load, not including the fuel surcharge, because for some reason the settlements doesn't include the fuel surcharge. I think you have to see that on Friday. Maybe on Friday, once it's processed, it'll add the fuel surcharge in for you, but right now it doesn't show that. So that's what I get without the fuel surcharge. That's my net settlement so far off of that one load. Now I have an empty trailer that I'm connected to, and I'm supposed to be going to Alachua, Florida, which is 844 miles for $970.60 without including the fuel surcharge, obviously. Coming out of Florida might be a little bit difficult, but I've been seeing loads in the area pop up, so there should be opportunities to come out of there. And then on top of that, what I see on the load board isn't what my planners and driver leaders and, well, I guess Swift calls it owner operator consultant, but driver leader sees, because what you see on the load board they don't see, they can't like book you on it. All they could do is dispatch. So if you book it, that means you committed to it. If you committed to it, it gets removed from the load board and then it gets dispatched to you. However, if they remove it from you because you're like, actually, I don't want that load, I found another load that just popped in, I want that one, so you book that one, then it'll pop back up on the load board. But yeah, anyway, what you see on the load board is not what they see, and vice versa. So hopefully there's something coming out of there. The second load here was dispatched to me literally as I was 200 miles away from my delivery at the Knight Transportation Terminal here in Indianapolis, Indiana. But the load board definitely needs a little bit of work. It doesn't let you see the amount of deadhead miles. You have to click on show more, and then you have to copy and paste the address, and then click on directions, and then it'll show you the hours it takes to get there, or the minutes, and then the miles as well. Whereas it could literally just show you that on the load board, just put it right there for you. It shows you the amount of stops, it shows you everything like that. It shows you where you're delivering to, or where you're picking up from, if it's a live load, if it's a live unload, if it's a drop and hook, if it's so on and so forth. But it doesn't show your deadhead miles, and it doesn't show anything else, and you can't have those notifications, nothing like that. At least it shows the weight and a map of point A to point B, or point A to point C, because you might have an additional stop in there, which would be point B. But I mean, it has loads. You could book loads. You could find ways around finding the amount of deadhead just by looking it up by copying and pasting. Literally just all I do is click and hold, and then click on map, because Android, I don't know if it's the same on iPhone, if you highlight a address, it'll show like a map that you could click on, which will open your Google Maps or your Apple Maps if you're on Apple. So it ain't too difficult, but it would just be nice to have it right there on the app. But anyway, so far so good. This load didn't really pay the greatest exactly, so hopefully the fuel surcharge makes it worth it, especially if it's like 30 cents per mile, because that'll be like an additional little over $100. So then it'll make the net settlement more around 200 or so, and then minus the taxes of like probably 25% or so, drop it back down to about the 170. But I mean, so far so good. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Thank you.